We've got some pretty massive news to take a look at here in today's video involving the New York Rangers, as we have officially seen their first game of the NHL season for 2025-26, as they will play on the NHL's opening night, which will have 3 games taking place that night. So we're going to take a look at when that is, the times of those 3 games on opening night to kick things off for this upcoming NHL regular season. We're also going to take a look at the 6 games for the New York Rangers in the upcoming preseason and kind of talk about them a bit, as well as we're going to take a look and kind of talk about when the actual official full release is for the NHL schedule, as well as talk a bit about the expectations for this upcoming season later on in the video as well. So let's get right into things here and take a look at the 3 games that will happen on October 7th, the first night of the NHL's regular season to kick things off for the 2025-26 season. There's going to be 3 games played that night there. The Rangers will play in one of them, and the first game is at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which will feature the Chicago Blackhawks and Connor Bedard against the reigning Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. Then we have at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the Pittsburgh Penguins will face off against our New York Rangers in a, rivalry game there, Penguins versus Rangers, but also it is a pretty interesting game as well because you have 2 former coaches of each of these teams are respectively, facing off against each other here. You have Dan Muse, a former Rangers assistant coach. He is going to be, of course, being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then you have the former head coach, longtime head coach of the Penguins, who brought them a lot of success there in Mike Sullivan. Well, he's, of course, now the head coach of the New York Rangers. So last season there, the head coach of the now Rangers and now Penguins were on the opposite teams here. So kind of funny, I guess you could say. Could make things a little extra kind of interesting, I guess, with obviously, Mike Sullivan coaching his first game with the Rangers against his former team that he was with for such a long time. Ended up becoming such a massive part, of that franchise, of course. And also at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so that late game for the night is the Colorado Avalanche against the Los Angeles Kings. But basically, Rangers kick things off there on opening night for the NHL on October 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. They'll face off at home, I believe it is, against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it should be a fun game. Obviously, it's the first game of the NHL season. You definitely, as a Rangers fan, I would imagine, hope that this team can get off to a pretty good start there against what I would expect is a not great Pittsburgh Penguins team. Of course, it will be both of these teams, though, first game with their new head coach and staff and their systems and all that kind of stuff there. So, things definitely may take a bit of time there for either team. And the Rangers have obviously seen a lot of changes, not only with their, current roster, but also coaching staff as well. So it definitely could be a pretty interesting first game there, but I really do obviously hope the Rangers can get off to a nice win there, start things off, and begin this 2025-26 season, which I think most of us are definitely hoping will be much better than the previous season we just saw, which was definitely extremely disappointing as the Rangers did not even make playoffs. But now let's carry on here. I'll quickly mention that, yes, the full kind of schedule release there for the NHL is on Wednesday, I believe. I don't know the exact time, but it will release. It's expected on Wednesday, so that's when the kind of full schedule for the Rangers and I'm sure the rest of the league as well. And next up here, we're going to take a look at the New York Rangers preseason schedule for this upcoming season. And I'm going to be honest, I am really excited for this preseason. And I'm sure I say that pretty much every year because, of course I am. The Rangers are back on. That basically means they're with preseason coming around. So obviously, I'm excited for preseason every single year. But I think with this one in particular, there are just so many really solid prospects right now with the Hartford Wolfpack, from guys like, Dylan Rubrick to Noah Laba to Jackson Dorrington, Adam Sikora. There are so many really great prospects, and even guys like, Berard, Perreault, Othman, we got to see at the NHL level last season there. There's just a bunch of these really solid kind of young prospects / NHL players, you could say, on the Rangers in the organization with the Wolfpack, or which we saw with the Rangers for a bit last year. Even like a Matthew Robertson, for example, there. He was kind of in his mid-20s now at this point there, but you had a bit of a sample size with the Rangers at the end of last season there. There are just so many really solid kind of young players as prospects on this team that I think so many of them are about ready to kind of make that jump to the NHL. Guys like, Rubrick, Sikora, a guy like Laba, especially a Jackson Dorrington. I don't think these guys are terribly far off really making an impact at the NHL level, and I think some of them are possibly going to get some kind of roles, maybe like we saw with an Othman or a Berard or a Perreault last season there, where they get a bit of a sample size maybe at the end of the season or at some point due to injuries or bad play, like we saw with Berard and kind of Othman as well. So I think some of these guys aren't going to obviously begin the NHL season with the team there, but some of them might end up, having a great training camp, having a great preseason there, and then start with the Wolfpack, but then end up getting called up at some point there. Maybe a Noah Laba can take some massive steps forward there and become the third line center for this team at some point throughout this upcoming season. So that's kind of why I'm so excited for this upcoming preseason, because there are so many great prospects that will be featured in this, and a lot of these guys could possibly have an impact on this team at some point there, like we saw from guys like Berard and Altman, especially throughout this past season as well, and a guy like Perreault obviously was a little different there because he ended up getting to come over after his college season ended there. But I think there are just so many great young guys and prospects on this team. I'm not saying there's a bunch of truly amazing kind of top tier elite prospects, but there definitely are a lot of just really good, solid prospects that I think are about ready to make the jump there and are definitely ready to really compete for a spot and at least, really kind of push some of those kind of veteran guys, which I think is a good thing. You want to have that competition there, especially with the young guys there. So having a guy like Taylor Raddysh added in there to kind of compete there with guys like Othman, Berard, Perreault, even like Sikora or a, Dylan Rubrek, right? There are a lot of these kind of good young wingers that are maybe about ready to kind of compete or maybe get a third line kind of role for this team. But I think adding in a guy like Raddysh there's going to be a lot of competition for those kind of bottom six spots. So it should be a really kind of exciting preseason there because there are going to be lots of guys battling for spots there and trying to prove themselves to be worthy of getting an opportunity at the NHL level. So this training camp preseason definitely could be quite fun and entertaining for us Rangers fans. But carrying on, though, and taking a look at the actual schedule here, the first game for the Rangers of the preseason is on September 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern time. All of these games will be 1 p.m. Eastern time, that I'll say, of course, and it is an away one against the New Jersey Devils. Then for the second one, it's a home one for the Rangers against the Bruins on September 23rd at 7 p.m. Then you've got another home game against the Islanders at 7 p.m. on the 25th. Then an away game for the Rangers against the Islanders on September 29th at 7 p.m. once again. Then another home game here for the Rangers, this one against the Devils on October 2nd at 7 p.m. And then to finish things off there for the preseason, they will finish off against the Boston Bruins in an away game in Boston, of course, on October 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So same kind of mix there as always, Bruins, Devils, Islanders, nothing crazy changing there, of course. Same kind of mix as always, and it should just be a fun preseason there. I always like watching the preseason. I mean, I'm a hockey fan. I'm a diehard Rangers fan. I cover this team. I've been a just diehard fan of this team for such a long time. So, of course, I love watching the preseason there, but I really do think this year in particular should just be an extra little bit exciting there because of, the new coaching staff coming in there, the new system, so many big changes with this team, and also the Rangers having so many really solid kind of prospects that are, about to kind of possibly make that jump there and really compete for spots there. That's kind of why I think this preseason could be so entertaining and so much fun to watch. So I'm definitely going to be kind of keyed in on it there. I'll have some videos kind of talking about those games, I'm sure, who's doing good, who's doing bad, who maybe is going to earn a spot because of, their play, possibly, all that kind of stuff there. So if you are a Rangers fan, really and truly, there's no better place to be on YouTube than this channel. So hit that like and subscribe button for daily content. And, I just think in general, this will hopefully be a much better season for the Rangers. I think for the most part there, they do have a lot of good depth on the kind of forward and defense side of things there. I think the depth situation there for this team and organization as a whole is pretty good. Even down the middle, I don't think it's too bad there center-wise. If you have a guy like Johnny Brodzinski, for example, being like maybe even like a winger possibly on this team or an extra forward, having him as that kind of fifth centerman isn't a bad thing at all there. And also Zibanejad, if he's starting on wing there, he's kind of your sixth centerman. So this team doesn't have too bad of depth there. Even in the kind of AHL, you've got a guy like a Noah Laba who'll be playing down there, Dylan Rubrek, a Brendan Brisson. So there's three kind of young guys right there in itself that can play center if they have to, if injuries come up. So I think depth-wise, this team is in a pretty good spot right now. On the back end, they brought in like Derek Pouliot. So I think there are some maybe kind of slight kind of problems in the back end depth-wise, but I think for the most part there, things are looking pretty good overall with this team. The depth isn't bad. The talent isn't bad. I mean, obviously, this team is not perfect. They're not going to be more than likely a kind of like top 5 team in the entire NHL this upcoming season, but I definitely really expect this team to be a whole lot better than what they were this past season there, and I am definitely hopeful and expecting they'll make the playoffs at bare minimum, in a wild card spot this upcoming season. But as always, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day a video at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, as well as definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Do you agree with my kind of take there on thinking this Rangers team will be kind of hopefully much better than last season there, and thinking they'll at least make a wild card spot? And also, what are your thoughts on this upcoming kind of, season for the Rangers there, the kind of opening night game there against the Penguins with Mike Sullivan facing his former team, and also this upcoming preseason schedule as well? Let me know your thoughts. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.